Hi. So the other day I was scrolling through my Netflix like you do, and you know that vibe where you want to watch something like fresh and new, but you also want something that you know you'll already like, or maybe that's just me. Anyway, I was scrolling through Netflix, completely paralyzed by all the choices and just wanting to see something familiar, but also not something I'd watched too recently. And I just remembered, oh yeah, I haven't watched the original series in a while. That could be fun. And then I remembered that I had this whole Google spreadsheet that I made years ago where I rated every single episode and movie of every Star Trek that I ever watched with comments. And I was like, I'll just go there, see which episodes I remember liking or whatever, and I'll watch one of those. But I got a bit distracted. Some of these comments that I had written on these TOS episodes were interesting. Throughout the whole spreadsheet, a certain theme seemed to emerge. Today I'm not going to talk about those episodes that were like meh or unmemorable, because who wants to talk about that? That's boring. I want to talk about those episodes that really got me fired up. Just a couple disclaimers. Disclaimer number one, I have zero attention span, so I'm going to be filming my reaction to every episode after just having watched it, so you might see different shots on different days. That's just how it's gonna be. And disclaimer the second, this video is my opinion. Obviously, you can have a different opinion, whatever. I love TOS, and just because I think these episodes are fucking ridiculous doesn't mean that I necessarily hate them. That being said, let's get into the top 5 worst must-see TOS episodes. Okay, so the first episode I feel like I have to talk about because everyone's talked about it is the season 3 episode Spock's Brain. This one definitely goes into the it's so bad it's good category. The premise is insane, the script is ridiculous, and the acting is...
Spock's brain controls.
overdramatic, as usual. But I kind of love it. I mean...
In search of his brain, Doctor.
Where are you going to look for Spock's brain?
You took his brain. You will put it back.
It's kind of iconic. So the plot is essentially this. An alien lady breaks onto the Enterprise, knocks everyone out, and then immediately leaves. Except wait.
His brain is gone.
Spock's brain is gone? She stole Spock's brain! Then there's some like random irrelevant drama where there's like 3 planets and they have to decide which one to search for because they have an arbitrary time limit of 24 hours after which Spock's body's gonna die. Anyway, Kirk and his big brain pick the right planet and they find this underground complex where Spock's brain is the new controller that's used to like power the life support systems somehow. Oh, and only women live in this complex, but they're all dumb as shit.
Brain and brain! What is brain?
Until they put on this cerebro-looking thing, which gives them all this crazy advanced knowledge, but only for exactly 3 hours. Don't question it. Anyway, eventually McCoy gets his 3 hours of genius and performs brain surgery on Spock to put his brain back in.
No one can restore a brain. You could.
And the whole time, Spock's body is giving him instructions, like he can feel the connections in his brain.
In a desperate hope that he can draw on Spock's brain for assistance, I instructed Dr. McCoy to give priority to connecting Spock's vocal cords.
Oh yeah, by the way, forgot to mention, but this whole time, Spock's body has been like walking around with them with this metal contraption on his head that McCoy can remote control, literally remote control. Oh, and he's wearing this like amazingly stylish green jumpsuit. So at the end, the complex becomes unlivable and all the alien ladies have to go live on the frozen wasteland surface of their planet. Haha, great times. Anyway, let's ignore that part. So why is this episode bad? Did you just hear what the summary was? I think we can all see it's entirely ridiculous. During the 3rd season in general, the production suffered a lot of budget cuts and a lot of other executive meddling in general. Leonard Nimoy even said in his autobiography about the making of this episode, he said, "Frankly, during the entire shooting of that episode, I was embarrassed, a feeling that overcame me many times during the final season of Star Trek." Yep, that seems about right. But To be honest, at the end of the day, I can't actually hate this episode. I mean, it's bad, sure, but it's inoffensive. I mean, at least it's not unmemorable, which can be said for a lot of other episodes. Plus, it gave us this iconic Spock quote. I rest my case. Okay, so the next episode I want to talk about is also from season 3, and it's called Requiem for Methuselah. Just FYI, these are in no particular order because that's effort. So the whole premise of this episode is that a few members of the Enterprise crew have gotten this disease called Rigelian fever, and the antidote they need is this mineral that is found on this random planet, and the only people on this planet are an old human man named Flint and his adopted daughter called Raina. So I have a few things to say about this episode. First of all, the whole premise of this episode is that a few crew members have gotten sick with Rigelian fever, and unless they get the antidote in 4 hours, everyone on the ship is going to die. Like, do these people understand epidemiology at all? But have these people never heard of quarantining, social distancing? Like, wear a fucking mask? Like, what are these people doing? Doesn't make any sense. The second and most important problem with this episode is the whole Raina thing. So Flint acts really a bit creepy towards Raina, is pretty controlling, so Kirk is concerned with her situation, you know, that's fair. But also he just immediately starts like hardcore flirting with her really uncomfortably. Like, I was uncomfortable watching that. And he keeps like saying that he loves her and like he knows that she loves him. Reminder that this whole episode takes place within 4 hours, okay? That's very important, remember that. And not to mention, Kirk just keeps like kissing her, like for no reason, this woman that he barely met. So that's extremely creepy already. But then on the other side, we have old Flint, you know, her adopted father. And he is also into Raina, which is super, super creepy because, you know, he is her father figure. Although, spoilers, it turns out she's an android that he created as like his perfect companion. Not that that makes it any less creepy. Like, she's a fully sentient person and he's just like calling her his property, like literally calling her his property. Oh, also he watches Raina and Kirk making out on a screen on CCTV in his room. So that just makes everything worse. So like I said, Kirk is completely off the rails in this entire episode. He keeps forgetting about the literally deadly plague on his ship that's going to kill everyone. And then at the end, Kirk and Flint, they literally physically brawl over who gets to be with Raina. Okay, so then Raina interrupts them and says, no, like, I'm gonna make my choice. I get to choose. I have agency. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Finally, someone said it. You know, she's a sentient person. She gets to make her own choices. But then, immediately, she's suddenly overwhelmed by this choice and, like, overwhelmed by having emotions. And she just straight up dies. She just dies. She just falls on the ground, dead. And I reiterate, all of this is happening within 4 hours, okay? Oh, and that's not even to mention my third problem with this whole thing, which is the whole Da Vinci Brahms situation. So basically, Kirk isn't the only one who's super distracted this whole time, because Spock is just obsessed with this idea, this fact, that Flint seems to have a collection of undiscovered but seemingly authentic Da Vinci paintings and Brahms' handwritten waltzes. And this all leads into a twist at the end where Flint turns out to be immortal and actually is Da Vinci and is Brahms. But he's not an alien or like an enhanced human or anything like that. He was literally just a random human and he was born immortal for some reason. Like, just randomly. We don't need to like question that or think about that. That's a thing. Yeah, so this episode I don't even want to talk about this anymore. Like, no. Okay, so before you say anything, yes, it's a new day. Get used to it. So the next episode I want to talk about is, shocking, another season 3 episode, and it's called The Paradise Syndrome. Quick summary of the episode. There's an asteroid about to hit and destroy this planet. And this planet is inhabited by people who are basically Native Americans, but they're aliens. Kirk goes down there and falls into an obelisk and gets his memory wiped. Okay, so Spock and McCoy are like, okay, we're gonna go back to the Enterprise and like try to stop this asteroid. Meanwhile, Kirk is like getting touted as a literal god in this Native American village. Kirk becomes the medicine man of the village and starts a relationship with this woman called Miramani. Oh, and she gets pregnant, by the way.
I bear your child.
Anyways, eventually Spock mind melds with Kirk to get his memory back, and we get this scene.
I am Spock. Closer, closer. He's an extremely dynamic individual.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was. So, Kirk has his memory back, they stop the asteroid, and Miramani dies. Just in case you thought they might throw in some moral complexity with like Kirk having to choose to leave this woman, his wife, you know, his child. None of that, she just dies, and they move on. Okay, so the main problem with this episode is it's questionable representation of Native American people. And yes, before you say it, I know they're not actually Native people from America on Earth. Okay, I know they're aliens or whatever, but you know, they're basically Native Americans. That's what the show's presenting them as. Cinema studies professor Daniel Leonard Bernardi pretty much summed up the problem with this episode. The Paradise Syndrome stereotypes Native Americans as noble savages and whites as normal and even divine. Despite his amnesia, Kirk is shown as naturally superior. The native girl dies so that Kirk, the white male hero, isn't shown unheroically and immorally, leaving her and their unborn baby behind. So apart from the part where Kirk literally gets worshipped as a god by these people, there's also a part where he does mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on a little boy and saves his life. And then this happens.
Only God can breathe life into the dead.
Yeah. And there's another scene where Kirk shows everyone in the village how to make an irrigation system. And oh my god, we can actually grow food now? Despite the fact that Native Americans have literally had irrigation systems since at least the year 800. And that's not even to mention the fact that, you know, those actors that are playing those Native American characters, they kind of look pretty white to me. So in conclusion, not a very big fan of this episode. Let's move on. Alright, we're gonna stop shitting on season 3 now, because the next episode I want to talk about is actually one from season 2, and it's called Metamorphosis. So when I first watched this episode many years ago, I wasn't familiar and comfortable with the whole 1960s-ness of the whole TOS thing. So I was kind of pretty shocked at what was going on in this episode. Now that I'm used to it, in hindsight, it's not nearly as bad, but I still thought I'd talk about it, you know, for old time's sake. So what happens in this episode is that Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are in the Galileo shuttlecraft, and they are transporting a woman called Commissioner Hedford to the Enterprise. Commissioner Hedford was a diplomat stationed somewhere to help prevent a war, but while she was there at that other planet, she contracted a rare disease, and now she's in need of urgent medical attention or else she's going to die. However, because this is Star Trek, nothing goes smoothly, and this mysterious cloud alien shows up and disables the shuttlecraft and forces them to land on this little planetoid. And on this planetoid, there is one guy living there, and his name is Zefram Cochrane. Now, if you are familiar with Star Trek generally, then you might recognize this name as the guy who literally invented warp drive. So basically, he tells them like what happened. So 150 years ago, when he was like 80 plus years old, he knew he was going to die, so he took a craft out into space to die in space. But this mysterious cloud alien found him, and it rescued him, brought him to this planetoid, and basically gave him eternal youth, and he's been there for 150 years since then. Anyway, so Kirk is immediately like, cool, so we're gonna go kill this cloud. Which, first of all, I'm pretty sure that's not your standard operating procedure, but okay, whatever. Anyway, that fails. So then they do what they were supposed to do the whole time and try to communicate with the alien. And basically, it turns out that the cloud is a woman cloud, which suddenly means that she must be in love with Cochrane.
Feminine, no doubt about it, Spock.
Yes. The matter of gender could change the entire situation.
Way ahead. A lover.
So Kirk gives this long speech to convince her to let them all go out of love for Cochrane, and
Different things. You can't join. You can't love. You may keep him here forever. But you will always be separate. Apart from him.
I feel like there's some kind of subtext there, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. Anyway, the cloud doesn't get Kirk's amazing subtlety, and instead it possesses the body of the nearly dead Commissioner Headford, who, by the way, has been lying in a bed like screaming this whole time because she's been dying. And Cloudford, as I like to call her, and Cochrane decide to live together happily ever after on this planet until they die, and the Enterprise crew just leaves. So one reason why I wanted to talk about this episode is because I joke a lot about Star Trek in general, but the original series specifically, having a lot of cloud aliens. So I mean, I get it, it's probably like the cheapest, easiest way to make an alien life form on a small budget because you don't have to make any costumes, you don't have to do any like practical effects or anything like that, it's just a bit of editing. So I get why they did it a lot, but it's still really funny to me. As far as I remember, this is the very first episode I ever watched that had a cloud alien in it, and it was just so iconic as like the OG cloud in TOS. I remember it fondly for that. Now to talk about the stuff that kind of made me uncomfortable when I first watched it, which now I feel like isn't as bad. So the first thing would be the weird kind of like gendering of the cloud. I wasn't bothered that the cloud in this episode, was female and identified as female. I was more like, why did the writers feel the need to gender a cloud? You know what I mean? And there's this whole speech where Kirk is like, oh, male and female are like universal concepts. Female always loves males and males always love females. And I was like, this hasn't aged well.
The idea of male and female are universal constants, Cochrane.
You're not a specimen kept in a cage. You're a lover. I'm a what?
So the second thing that I want to talk about is like the treatment of Commissioner Headford. The way they treat her is a little bit sketchy in my opinion, both the characters and the writers, I mean. So throughout the whole episode, she just kind of acts really irrationally upset and angry and basically confused the whole time, which for such a high-ranking Starfleet or Federation person, like what? But for that, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt because she is like very severely ill at this point, and when you're ill, your thoughts are all over the place. So that I'm actually not mad about. But what I am a little mad about is at the beginning of the episode, she complains to Kirk and Spock and McCoy that she's upset with Starfleet because they didn't give her the proper vaccinations before she was deployed for this peace mission.
I was sent to Epsilon Canaris 3 to prevent a war, Doctor. Thanks to the inefficiency of the medical branch of the Starfleet, I've been forced to leave before my job was done.
And they just kind of ignore her. Like, they're just like, oh, but the disease is rare. Why would they vaccinate you against it? Just because the disease is rare doesn't mean it's not worth vaccinating someone against it, especially if they're going to be that far away from any medical care at that point. So yeah, they basically just tell her to like sit down and shut up, which was a bit dodgy. Then there's another part in the episode where she has like this intense fever and she's kind of a bit out of it, and she's lamenting how she has never loved anyone and never been loved, and all she cared about was her career, and what kind of life is that? Like, she has so many regrets, and it just kind of perpetuates this whole idea of like women have to choose between a career and love and family, and you can't just have both.
Been good at my job. I've never been loved. What kind of life is that?
And yeah, I didn't appreciate that much. Oh, and then obviously there's the whole like Headford's body gets possessed, and like no one cares. I mean, it's not super clear in the episode how much say she had in that, or how much control or consent she has in the like Cloudford entity. It is said that they are coexisting in there, but when she's speaking, it does sound like it's just the cloud speaking. But anyway, that's a little bit. And the last thing I'm gonna say before I'm just done with this episode is that the very last line of the episode, McCoy is like, wait, but there's gonna be a war on this planet since this commissioner's dead. What are we gonna do? And Kirk's just like, we'll find another woman.
What about that war on Epsilon Canaris 3?
Well, I'm sure the Federation can find another woman somewhere who'll stop that war.
Like, what? Why does he say it like that? And why does it have to be a woman? I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way. But yeah, you can make of it what you will. I don't love it. Oh my god, we're finally at the last episode on this list. I lost so many brain cells watching this episode, so you better appreciate it. I think most people probably won't be surprised with what episode I'm gonna talk about now. It's another one from season 2, and it's called The Omega Glory. The premise of the episode is that the Enterprise comes across a Federation starship that's just orbiting around this random planet, but all the crew on board are dead of some kind of plague, except the captain is missing, and they find him down on the planet, but he's breaking the Prime Directive by getting involved in a war between these two civilizations. So on the one side we have the Yangs, who are kind of white people. They look white, they have like blonde hair, blue eyes, and they're a little bit technologically behind. And on the other side we have the Combs, who look like Asian people, like East Asian people, and they are a bit more technologically advanced, and they're kind of in this war where the Combs have these settlements, but the Yangs are trying to get the land back. So I'm not going to go into it too much. The plot is pretty standard until you get to the second half, where it goes completely insane. And I'm not gonna even like explain it. I'm just gonna show you the clips, and you're gonna have to experience what I experienced.
Like Indian. Finally even looking like the American Indian. Right. Yanks? Spock? Yankees.
Communists. It would mean they fought the war your Earth avoided. And in this case, the Asiatics won and took over this planet.
You see what I'm talking about, right? So the first problem with this episode, the plot is entirely absurd, as you have just seen. Second problem with this episode, as you can expect, where there's an episode where there's like a war between white people, aliens, and Asian people, aliens, there's gonna be some sketchy discussions of race here. I'm not gonna go into it too much myself because I just don't want to, but I will read you this passage again from Mr. Daniel Leonard Bernardi, who, like I said, was a film professor. So Bernardi says, the episode not only reveals an unwillingness to be critical of the hegemony of racist representations, but also systematically participates in the stereotyping of Asians. As the story progresses, the Yangs are constructed as noble savages. Their cause to annihilate the Combs is established as justified. The Combs, on the other hand, are constructed as brutal and oppressive. Their drive to suppress the Yangs is established as totalitarian. When Kirk and Spock realize the extent to which the Yangs and Combs parallel Earth civilizations, the Yangs are no longer savages, but noble warriors fighting for a just and honorable cause. They want to regain the land they lost in a war with the Asiatics. So yeah, it's all a bit sketchy. I'm just going to move on quickly to my third and final point, which is that this episode comes across disturbingly like some kind of pro-America propaganda, which I'm not unfamiliar with. A lot of American-made TV shows or movies do kind of have that vibe, but this is a show about United Federation of Planets, the United Earth. It's so jarring and weird to see this kind of glorification of the American Constitution. Like, just the fact that they keep referring to the American Constitution as like their holy words, the Yangs, I mean.
I plaguely iron neck to flagon, to pep, light for stand.
And To the Republic, for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
He spoke the holy word.
And people keep like saluting the American flag, and the national anthem is weaved into the soundtrack. It's all a bit much. So there you have it. That was my top 5 worst Star Trek TOS episodes. Just want to reiterate that this was obviously just my opinion and that these were in no particular order. To be honest, I'm not sure if I regret making this video because I did have to rewatch a lot of content that made me pretty uncomfortable. But yeah, maybe I'll go in at some point back to my spreadsheet and do a top 5 best episodes version of this. Anyway, go have a rewatch or leave a comment or I don't know, whatever you want. And I am going to go eat some ice cream and cleanse myself of the horrors I have just seen. Bye!